What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls Podcast, brought to you by Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart. Go to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Basketball. And, of course, always celebrate responsibly. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck, joined by Big Dave, Bow, BAWL Sports, Will the Goat Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb. Our pound producer on the controls is the one and only Greg Braggs. And we are very pleased to have joining us for part of today's show the assistant coach at Sunrise Christian Academy, where the Bulls' number 11 draft pick, Matas Buzelis, spent his senior year of high school balling out. Welcome to the show, the one and only Braeden Proctor. Hey. Braeden, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
What's good, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you being here. Excited to get some of your insights on the young man the Bulls just drafted to join this newly forming roster, trending younger, and of course, Matas a big part of that. Let's start just really simply with what your initial impressions were when you first met Matas when he transferred, because he transferred to Sunrise his senior year.
Right. So I met Matas actually a year before that. There was a big national camp in Wichita, the Crossroads Invitational. Big national event. It's been hosted in Indianapolis, Wichita, Kansas City this year, and there's been other spots. And one of our assistants was asked to coach in the camp, and he ended up getting Matas placed on his team. And him and Matas hit it off really well. The mom, Christina, was there as well, just kind of supporting, and left a good impression. She really liked Matas, and I was there just watching because it had like 50 high major players there at least, like Santos Surreal and a ton of other high major guys. Nick Smith was there the year before. The Thompson twins were in that event in the past, who were obviously in the NBA now, lottery picks. So that was the first time I met him. He was pretty quiet then because we didn't have that relationship. It was just like a random person. But when I knew he was coming to Sunrise, the summer before our season, his senior year started, I went to an EYBL event and was just talking to him a little bit there, and totally different person because he knew he was coming to Sunrise, and lights the room up. Really, really good. And he was good at Sunrise with it, about just leaving a good impression. Came up, shook my hand. He's like, "How you doing, coach? Can't wait to play for you this year." All that stuff. And yeah, just a super vibrant, energetic, positive kid. Gives off good energy. So yeah, he's really good at setting good first impressions, and he did on me too.
Coach, when do you know that a player has something special when you're watching them on the floor, and do you see any of that when we're talking about Matas?
Yeah, a lot of guys just have like that it factor. Matas had it when I watched him at the camp. That camp was loaded. I mean, I'm drawing a blank right now just thinking about it, but there was so many high-level players, and he's like popping off the page. I don't know if he got MVP. I feel like he did of that Crossroads Invitational. But there's just certain guys that have it. I remember when I'm from Michigan, like Josh Jackson was going up through high school before he went out to Prolific Prep. He had like that it factor. I mean, Miles Bridges, like there's certain guys like, but you just see like kids when they're in high school and just different high level kids. And they just, I mean, even going against other high level dudes, they just do stuff that you don't see very often. I mean, Kennedy Chandler, I coached him at Sunrise too. Like he had that it factor. Just different guys have different ways of showing it, but Matas was 6'9", moved like a guard. His jump shot was really good. I know there's been question marks about that, but I have no questions about that. I mean, he was knockdown shooter in practices. Just you knew right away when you watched him in the camp, and then when he got to our practices and open gyms at the start of the year, we had a really good team, and he showed it right away. Like, he was like, I thought he was the best player in the country. I mean, that was just my opinion. I've seen a lot of dudes firsthand. I thought he was top 3 at worst, but I thought he was the best player in the country. He just has stuff you don't see on 6'9" guys very often.
You just mentioned the shooting. That's something I wanted to get into because obviously, I think he was like 26.5% last year in the G League, but over 40% with you guys at Sunrise Christian. Can you just like kind of break down his shot, what you think it's going to be at the NBA level, maybe why you think things kind of dipped a little bit last year, just moving the 3-point line back, and just where do you see him getting to as a shooter? Maybe not necessarily right away, but in the long term, what do you think of his jump shot?
Yeah, I think the speed of the game maybe in the G League, and then just, the circumstances didn't help. They were really young. You're going against – people take that for granted. That when you're in the G League, after seeing high-level basketball, those are all, college all-stars, all-Americans that they're going against and 10-year vets. So just I think the speed of it was a lot for him, but he works hard on his jump shot. Every day after practice at Sunrise, he used to stay after 40 minutes at least and just rep out shots, different types of shots. That 1-foot fadeaway he really loves. He worked on that like crazy in the mid-range, mid-post area, and then spot up catch and shoot threes from all across the court, the corner threes, top the key, whatever. So I think he'll get there. I think 35% is absolutely reasonable. I think he will get there. I wouldn't be shocked if he pushes 37%. He'll work at it, especially as a spot shooter. I'm not saying as a off the dribble 3-point shooter, but 6'9" as a spot shooter, if you're shooting 37%, you're probably going to be in good shape. And I think he'll absolutely get there because that kid works.
A couple of things that have stood out from Bulls fans who've been observing Matas leading up to the draft and then especially after drafting him. As far as a character standpoint, somebody who has known him for several years, we noticed that at the Combine he was very confident and spoke confidently about his game, saying he wasn't worried about this shot that we've been discussing. I think at one point he said, if I didn't have such a tough shooting year for the G League Ignite, that I'd be the number 1 pick in this draft class. We also saw him be very vulnerable and show some of that emotion that was sort of, that was overcoming him when he heard his name called and took the stage and shook hands with Adam Silver on draft night. So we've seen confidence and we've seen a certain vulnerability and a willingness to express some of that emotion. Would you agree with those as sort of characteristics of Matas? And what else can Bulls fans expect to get from this guy, not just the player, but the person?
Yeah, he's passionate. He loves basketball. There ain't no way around that. I think him and his family are very close-knit. He's a very homebody-ish kid in a good way. He doesn't do dumb stuff. He's a low-maintenance guy. He's going to be high character. And his family's awesome. Even when he was at Sunrise, his parents would come out monthly to check in on the team and see him and the family and us as a coaching staff. They were around quite a bit. And then his brother Vince was there too, who's doing pretty well in high school ball in Illinois right now. He's the one who went viral, obviously, who had that, the ESPN was showing him for a while. But, they're just a very close-knit family. I know he loved being in Chicago whenever he could, spending time with them. But that wasn't a surprise that he showed that vulnerability, because I think he loved the fact that he's going to be back home with all his friends and, getting to play in front of his family all the time again. And it's not like they have to fly anymore. When they have home games, they're going to be I don't know how far a drive is from where Hinsdale at Central is, but that, that's where they used to go to school. And that's, they're going to be able to see him. So I think that's a dream for him. That was a dream scenario for him, honestly. I really do think that. But he does have a lot of fire too. Almost every game he would have a moment where I don't mind it. He got a handful of texts this year when he played for us, just because he would dunk or get an one. He would chest bump the dude or whatever. He had a little stink to him, a little moxie, and I like that stuff. Obviously we had to tell him to rein it in a little bit, but I'd rather have someone like that than someone you have to get that out of people. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you can't force that out of people. So I think he has a good balance. I think there'll be a little acclimation to the NBA, but I think you're going to see both of those things his passion for being a Chicago Bulls player, being a hometown kid, and then I think you're going to see him play with that fire at the same time.
Coach, do you recall the best game that you saw him playing while you were coaching him? Do you recall that game? And if so, what was that game like?
He had a lot of good games. Off the top of my head, sheesh. I mean, we lost the game. I want to say the Link Year game, the first time we played them in Bass Pro, he was pretty dang good. It was up and down. It was a high-level game. Jacoby Walters, Elliot Cadeau. I mean, we had several other high-level guys. I think that was a pretty dang good game for him. He started off slow, but he got going and dragged us back into it. We ended up losing, but they were keying on him hard, and he started hitting tough shots and just keeping us in the game. And that sticks out for me just because Link ended up winning the national championship that year. And it was just like he went toe-to-toe with another NBA player and other high-level college players. So that game stands out. I mean, honestly, I don't really remember him having a ton of bad games. Like, there was games where he could have been a little more efficient or whatever, but he was pretty productive in just about every game. So, and he did something almost every game where I was just like, that's high level. Like, you ain't seen that very often.
What do you think about just sort of his transition into the G League? Like we were kind of talking about with the shooting, I just feel like going from the high school three-point line to the NBA three-point line, going from playing against high school kids to playing against adult grown men. What do you think, like, I don't know if you've talked to him much since that experience, but like, what do you think that can provide for him as now he transitions again to the NBA level? Do you think that kind of gives him a leg up in terms of getting acclimated? Do you think that, you know, that sort of experience, how do you feel like that will help him as he transitions to the NBA?
Yeah, I think that will help just because going back several more feet, even from the high school line. I think we played with an old college line at Sunrise in our league. I can't remember for sure on that, but depends on the NIBC and all that stuff, or the EYBL Scholastic now. Having a year just shooting there now, I think that's a big deal. And then college is going to the FIBA line helps kids in general now instead of going from the old college line to the NBA. Because now it's less than a foot or about a foot away instead of like 2.5 or whatever it used to be. So, but almost every kid, when they go from high school to that FIBA line, even in college, their freshman years, a lot of them struggle. And then they get better as their sophomores and juniors. So just having that year in the G League, just using the NBA line, I think is going to be a huge advantage. And I know he's been putting shots up. He's been getting time in the gym. So I think that he'll transition pretty quickly. I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's in the mid-30s, even as a rookie.
Wow.
Whether that's in the G League again or with the Bulls, I wouldn't be shocked.
Oh, make no mistake, it'll be with the Bulls. We will not spend a second in the G League at all. Absolutely not.
Jamie Anthony in the comments is wondering, Braeden, if you can recall, best player that you saw Matas go head-to-head against when he was playing with y'all at Sunrise Christian Academy his senior year, somebody else that was maybe, you know, in that system working their way towards an NBA draft.
I mean, here's an obvious one, Cooper Flagg, that whole Montfort team. I mean, yeah, that was fun. That Montfort team was stacked. We were the last team to beat them, and then they went undefeated this year. And then they ran the table. We beat them in the first round of Geico. So Cooper for sure. Liam McNeely. I mean, Compass had some players. It was, yeah, I mean, Cooper Flagg would definitely probably be the top one. I mean, that's the one that everybody knows right now after how he just did with the select team for USA.
Yeah, future Bull, Cooper Flagg, potentially.
According to Braggs. That's
exactly. Plenty more. Our guy, Braeden Proctor, is going to stick around with us for another segment and talk more about Matas and his transition into the NBA. Also get your thoughts on what's going to happen with the Bulls in Summer League coming up in Vegas this weekend and beyond. So stick around, hit that like button. Appreciate Braeden being here. And in the meantime, we got some people that we want to shout out.
Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. That's right. It's the Baby Joey approved Shady Rays. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Independent sunglasses company offering that world-class product that's rated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. Over 300,000 people Their shades have durable frames, extremely clear optics, making them the perfect choice for your outdoor, and as I'm going to prove in a second, your indoor adventiones. And they have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your fit and your style, like that man right over there. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit like a hat throw, don't sweat it. They got the most insane protection most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by the lost or broken replacements plan. So exclusive for the listeners out there, Shady Rays is giving away their best deal of the season. Head over to ShadyRays.com. Use the code CHGO. Get 35% off your premium polarized shades and try it for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars for over 300,000 people, because the Shady Rays, y'all, with a rays are just so shady. Damn, I'm fine.
Looking good. Can't forget these when we're packing for Summer League. It's going to be sunny and shiny out there in Vegas.
Yes, it will be, sir.
We'll go, Golly, but I got a quick question for you. What time is it?
Game time.
Hey-oh! With Game Time, you can make getting tickets to whatever you want, sporting events, concerts, theater, and more, even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I love Game Time app. I use it regularly. I've used it before to get last-minute seats for a beautiful Wrigley game on a summer Sunday in Chicago. Especially if you want to maybe hang out with our 120 club for a Friday bleachers. I've actually been able to get really affordable last-second tickets for those GA bleacher seats at Wrigley. You got to check Game Time out for that. And, of course, they take the guesswork out of buying tickets, because you can basically pick a section and then they will pick the seat for you with the most savings possible. Last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Of course, that lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket price on a different ticketing site or app. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets. Oh, wait, those are over. Guess what? Get yourself some tickets to the Sky. Shout out to them. They got a W today. The Angel Reese double streak continues.
14.
Go to a Sky game. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use promo code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code CHGO after you create an account with Game Time. $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Because Big Dave, what time is it?
Game Time. Who?
Boom. Rolling along with Braeden Proctor, who was a coach for Matas Buzelis and his senior year at Christian Sunrise Academy out in Bel Aire, Kansas, getting his insights on the guy the Bulls just drafted with the 11th overall pick. Braeden, somebody else in the comments just a minute ago mentioned that a lot of people had Matas as a potentially top 5 pick, certainly top 7. A lot of people surprised to see him fall all the way into the Bulls' lap on draft night at 11. Were you surprised as well? And what might you guess as to be the reason why the Bulls maybe got themselves a steal? And do you think the Bulls got themselves a steal with Matas at 11?
Yeah, I do think they got a steal. I was surprised. I didn't think he was going to fall past Detroit, to be honest, for multiple reasons. But, I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, the G League situation, it was how it was. It was a tough year, but, I mean, he was still productive. And to be honest, there's always been this thing with NBA teams. They always love international guys, whether fair or not. It's like there's that meme that I'm going to show a little bit childish or whatever, but the Family Guy meme where it was like the mystery box. It's like you can get a boat or the mystery box is like a boat's a boat, but a mystery box could be anything.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the thing I feel like NBA teams are with international guys. It is what it is. I mean, I'm sure he's thrilled with how it worked out. It worked out probably for the best, honestly. Just getting to be around the hometown. He'll have his whole support system there. And his family's awesome. And he's going to work extra hard because he already cared so much about Chicago. So it's going to give him extra reason to work harder and, produce. So, I mean, I was surprised he dropped. I do think the Bulls got a steal. But I think it worked out for the best. So I'm happy for him. I mean, I'm happy for the whole family. I texted all of them after it happened. I'm like, I can't believe that's worked out how it did.
Well, Coach, we know
Boat's a boat, but a mystery box could be anything.
We'll take the box.
It could even be a boat.
Coach, we know that with all the praise and everything, we know he's not a perfect player, but there aren't too many that are. What is something that you would like to see him kind of work on to get to that level that we all kind of feel he could be at? Is there something like on the floor he should be working on, or is it some other intangible that you see? Like, what do you think he should be working on this season as a rookie?
I mean, just adding weight. I think that's a big thing. Continuing he's going to work, so I'm not going to doubt his work ethic or him being better or anything. Just always the motor staying at 100, impacting the game all the time. Because he's a great rebounder. He's a really good rim protector. He's a better defender than he gets credit for, too. He moves his hips or, changes directions really well. I think he's always gotten a bad rap going through the prep ranks, at least, about his defense. And I thought he was a pretty dang good defender. It was just about staying locked in, but he could guard anybody through high school without any issues. We didn't have a problem guarding up and down the lineup with him. And we were lucky because we had a really mobile big man. John Bull was a McDonald's All-American, and Scotty Middleton was a really good defender and really athletic and long guys. So we switched everything, and we had no problems with him. At no point were we thinking when Matas the one switching out, oh crap, ever. Never talked about that as a coaching staff. I never thought that. I think he can guard. I just think getting stronger will be the biggest thing. I think, now that I'm coaching in college and even at Sunrise, strength is I'd argue maybe the most important thing in my opinion now, just because if you handle a ball but you can't get by people, if you naturally get really strong, a lot stronger, if you can naturally keep guys on your hip, and if you got to keep them in jail, if you snake a screen or whatever, before you wouldn't be able to hold them off, but if you're just naturally stronger, that's going to become easy because you already have the skill set to do it. So I just think getting stronger is going to open up so many doors for him. And he works at it. He was working like crazy even at Sunrise. He gained at least 10 pounds when he was with us. So he works at it, and I'm not really concerned about that either.
You mentioned the defense being kind of an underrated element of his game. Watching some film, being a low man, sliding over, protecting the rim, I thought was really impressive. Obviously, for somebody his size, the athleticism really pops, the ability to put the ball on the floor, and just kind of create some offense in transition. What are some other elements of his game that you think are maybe a little bit overlooked that he could really shine at the NBA level after, putting in some time and obviously transitioning?
Well, I think he's a decent playmaker too. I know it's not what he had a negative assist to turnover ratio, I want to say, but he was a really good passer at Sunrise even. He was trying to be too unselfish at times. We were always telling him dude, no, be more aggressive. We want you being aggressive. But he wanted to show he could be a playmaker, and I think he can, and he did. He made some good passes at Sunrise. Not saying it's going to be his game, necessarily, but I think he can show glimpses of it and he'll be better than people think on that front too. I think he's going to surprise people. I thought he was the highest upside guy in the draft coming in. Maybe that's a hot take, but I saw him firsthand for a year. I saw him go toe-to-toe with a lot of other high-level players. So, I can't speak for the international guys, but for the guys in the U.S., I think the Bulls are going to be really happy with him, especially in a couple years.
Not sure how closely you've been following Bulls basketball over the last couple of years and the start of this offseason. Bulls fans are really curious how a player like Buzelis, especially in his first couple of NBA career seasons, is going to fit in with some of these younger pieces that they're keeping around. They move off from DeMar, but they bring in Josh Giddey in the Caruso trade, sort of a point forward who's more of a pass-first guy, not a score-first guy, a combo guard like Kobe White who can be dangerous on and off the ball. How do you see Buzelis fitting in with some of the other younger core pieces that the Bulls are working with here?
He's a smart guy. He'll figure it out. He'll do whatever's asked of him, honestly. If they told him they want him to, focus more on defense and be a floor spacer, he can do that. If it's someone who's attacking closeouts, he can do that a little bit more. He'll do whatever's asked of him. So, and he'll put the work in with whatever they want him to do to get to the point where it'll work. I think it's hard to say without seeing them play together, but I think I'd be optimistic he'll figure it out and he'll make the best of whoever he's playing with.
Coach, I got 2 questions for you. First one, with you being from Michigan, does that mean you're a Detroit Pistons fan?
So yeah,
Okay.
but I grew up a Michael Jordan fan. He's my favorite player ever. I got pictures of me wearing Michael Jordan Space Jam stuff when I was a kid and all that stuff. So a little bit contradictory, but yeah, I love the 04 Pistons team. We used to watch every game when Chauncey and Rip and the Wallaces were there and Tayshaun. I know Lindsey Hunter. I know his sons. Caleb
Former Bull.
been a pretty good player.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I grew up a Pistons fan, but I've always loved, hilariously enough, my favorite player ever was a Bull, and he's still my favorite player ever. So, not really a conflict of interest, though, to be honest. I used to be a scout before I got into coaching, like a prep scout.
Yes, sir.
And to be transparent, I was a Michigan fan growing up. But at Sunrise, we've had a lot of guys go through Michigan State, Tum Nairn, Malik Hall, and then most recently Jaden Akins, who I recruited to Sunrise. So, yeah, I mean, I learned how to put that stuff to the side a long time ago, and I just want what's best for the guys.
Detroit sucks!
That wasn't us. That was our producer, Brad.
Yeah, our producer does that. But don't ever let it be said that you don't have amazing taste. You have amazing taste in basketball, sir. You know greatness when you see it, and I respect that. But I do want to know, is there something that kind of leapt out at you about Matas the more you kind of got to know him? Because the thing for me, I'm asking this question because the thing for me that just seeing him and hearing him speak, the thing I just leapt out of me was, as Matt mentioned, that confidence that he kind of has, because it's not cocky, but he's just very sure of himself. What's something that kind of did that for you? Was it how he is with his family? Is it how he is as a teammate? Like, what's an intangible that kind of leapt out for you?
So there's always this, and I've been lucky at Sunrise. We've been recruiting well, but there's this false narrative about 5 stars a lot of times having big egos. And I mean, there's egos involved in everything, but like,
sure,
he was probably the most one of, if not the lowest maintenance guys we've ever had. So coachable. He never argued back one time. We were hard on him. Like, we pushed him hard. We were on him all the time because we saw what he could become. And that's just how it kind of was. And it's been at Sunrise. You're going to get held accountable. And whether you think you did something or not, or whether it was your fault or not, like, I mean, you're going to get challenged and pushed. He never barked back, even if he was right or we were wrong. He would just be like, I got you. Like, that's my bad. Or like, never threw his shoulders or his hands, or just blew any of us coaches off. He was super coachable. And he was like that with his teammates too. Like, teammates would tell him stuff, whether it was a 3-star or a guy at the end of the bench or one of our other top guys, and he would like look at them in the eyes and be like, I got you. Like, yep. Like, appreciate that. Like telling him what to do even in the bench. Like, if he's walking down the bench and they were like, hey, like, they're giving him tips too. So like, just his humility, his coachability, willing to be coached, willing to be held accountable. And his parents were great about that too. Like, no complaints ever. They were like, do what you got to do. Hold him to the fire, hold Vince to the fire. So like, just that was a big thing, just how willing he was to do whatever it was to help his teammates out too. He wanted them to succeed as much as he did. And to get all the glitz and glamour, the accolades too. So, yeah, just that's the type of thing with Matas, man. He's super coachable, super willing to get better and do whatever it takes to win. And if you're his teammate, he's rolling with you. Like, it's that simple. Like, there's not a debate anymore. He doesn't go in thinking he's better than everybody else. He didn't do that one time, even with our walk-ons. He hung out with our quote-unquote walk-ons at Sunrise as much as he did the scholarship guys. So, yeah, he's super humble and super coachable, which I loved.
So Bulls have their first Summer League game coming up on Saturday out in Las Vegas. The diehard Bulls fans always curious to tune in and watch their team's newest draft pick perform in obviously a level of competition that's not NBA basketball, but other guys who just got drafted into the league or maybe incoming second-year players. You know, would you expect Matas to be somebody who can go into those Summer League level of competition games and really put his stamp on it? Like, do you expect Bulls fans to be blown away by a handful of summer league games where Matas puts himself maybe a head and shoulders above the rest of the competition, who are all trying to make a name for themselves in this, 2-week-long mini season out there in Vegas?
Right. I mean, I would argue that the G League is a higher level than the Summer League because those are established pros. The G League, the Summer League is a lot of incoming rookies or guys from overseas or whatever trying to get their shot. And actually, there was a guy on the Summer League team for the Bulls last year who I'm really close with, Will Yoakum. He was on the was a D2 All-American. He's playing pro in Mexico now. But so yeah, the G League is like guys who have been there, usually for our established college Division I All-Americans. So I think there's a decent chance I'd expect him to be pretty productive. I don't want to put any label or anything on him. Like, I'll let his game speak for itself. But I think Matas expects to go in there and produce. I think that's what I expect. I believe in him that much. But I don't want to put any, stat line on him. You know what I mean? But I do think there's a pretty good chance to be pretty productive. There's going to be ups and downs. He's a rookie. He's not and rookies are, compared to the guys who have been in the Summer League a few times, the guys who are going to be, they're gunning for them a little bit more because they already got their guaranteed contracts. So they're trying to go at their necks a little bit more, especially the vets, because they're trying to prove that they deserve to be in the league as much as these incoming rookies do. So Matas is tough enough. I'm not worried. He'll hold his own and fight. But, yeah, I mean, people are going to go at him, but he's going to be just fine, I think.
Braeden, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Bulls Nation, that is Braeden Proctor, assistant coach out there at Sunrise Christian Academy in Bel Aire, Kansas. Braeden, if you ever come out to Chicago to see one of Matas' rookie season Bulls games, let us know. We'd love to get together and chat some more about this young prospect, all right?
Yep. Would love to, guys.
Appreciate the insight. You. Have a good one, man. All right, that was Braeden.
See you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Braeden Proctor, Sunrise Academy assistant coach, worked with Matas, who had a very impressive senior year for them after his transfer. We still got plenty more coming up on CHGO Bulls. We're going to talk about the latest Zach LaVine trade buzz going around the NBA rumor mill and what exactly the Bulls' plan is if there is no trade for Zach LaVine. That's still ahead on CHGO Bulls. Beer.
Between work, social media, and the choices life throws our way, it's no wonder we're more worked up. Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset. Why not turn that rained-out barbecue into the Matas Buzelis and Will the Go Gottlieb 55th annual house party with some karaoke? Or, after a tough loss, settle scores with an ice-cold peace offering. Make your choice to choose chill, then reach for Coors Light because it's that mountain cold refreshment. Because when those mountains turn blue, you know just what to do because it's cold lager, cold filter, and cold package for a smooth finish. So embrace that chill mindset because Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Hurricanes. Make the most out of those times to choose chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door via Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
It's a little bit closer to Vegas than Chicago.
Tailby.
Golden, Colorado.
That's true.
We are going out to Vegas on Friday, y'all. Summer League is here.
That's what I've heard. It's official?
It's official. I mean, we have airline tickets, so I would assume that makes it official.
Yeah, we'll see.
We got a place to stay. Shout out, Circa.
Shout out.
And we have the perfect sunglasses to keep us, safe from those crazy Las Vegas sunny rays, aka shady rays.
Mm-hmm.
But now is a better time than ever to become a CHGO diehard because we are going out to Summer League in Las Vegas. We're going to cover their first couple of games on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have 4 shows for y'all out there, live from various locations around Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. We're doing shows Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They will all be at 1 p.m. Central Time. Make that mark on your calendars. But in addition to that, we're going to do all kinds of fun content for you for the diehards only.
Yes.
There's going to be some Discord hangouts immediately following their games on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, we're hanging.
Me and Big Dave hanging out on the Discord with our fellow diehards, while Will and Joey are getting that media access, talking to players and their coach post-game. Some of Will's written content is going to be for the diehards only out of Summer League. You want to be hearing from these young players. You want to be hearing from the coaching staff out in Summer League. I think I'm going to be doing a Summer League diary for the diehards, much like Mr. Braggs did here for a certain Bears. What was it? Mini camp or training camp or
Braggs?
What did I do?
When you did like a diary, like a written diary.
Yeah. I did it for the combine.
Oh, for the combine. Yeah. There you go. Your draft combine. I'm going to be doing a Braggs-esque diary, but just talking about not only the basketball, but our various other exploits in Las Vegas for 5 days.
Beer number 98.
Hey, oh my God, I am not going to count the number of beers I drink in Vegas.
Do it in the diary.
My mom would worry, and she reads my stuff. But either way, those are the newest and best reasons to sign up to become a CHGO diehard. On top of the ones you already know about, because we've told you about them before, 20% off every time you shop the diehard merch locker, plus the free shirt of your choice when you sign up. Not only that, we got pint glasses, we got hats, we got winter caps, all that jazz. We got hoodies, we got zippy hoodies, and access to that diehards only Discord. The best of the best behind that diehard paywall when it comes to our credentialed reporters and journalists here at CHGO. Sign up to become a diehard today. It's pennies a day for an annual membership, and you're part of the cool kids crew. Become a diehard. Get the best of our Summer League content right around the corner.
I got a diehard article out right now.
Hey-o, flex.
About things I would have changed with the Bulls rebuild. I feel like we have talked a lot about, like, yes, they're going generally in the right direction, but like execution-wise, there's some things that I would have wanted to change. I wrote about all of the things that I would want to have done differently, so you can go check that out behind the diehard paywall.
I like it. Things Go would have done differently, and I was reading it, and I was like, yep. And so, like, just a little sneak peek, I think item 1 on your things I would have done differently was timeline, right? And basically saying, like, the Bulls front office finally admitted that this wasn't it, and they needed to go a new direction. They should have done it a year ago or even a year and a half ago. And part of that may well be Zach LaVine being a more tradable asset a year ago or a year and change ago compared to what he is now. And the problem that the team faces trying to steer towards this younger roster while also just kind of being stuck with Zach LaVine right now. And there's been a lot of that talk going around recently after all of the chaos and noise of free agency has sort of died down. And there are still a couple of other, players around the league. Like, is this guy going to stay here? Is this guy movable? And Zach LaVine's name is one that keeps coming up. This was just one of a few that have been going around recently, but it was Forbes Sports' Evan Sidery who had this little nugget earlier today. Bulls and Zach LaVine remain hopeful for a trade, but yet again, market appears dried out. Two teams who previously registered that interest on Zach, the Kings and the Warriors, have obviously pivoted in other directions. Unless Chicago reaches desperate levels to move LaVine, it might be a relationship both sides must begrudgingly continue into the season. I think a lot of Bulls fans have been wondering about this. Like, okay, we're going younger. We traded away Caruso. We brought in a young guy with maybe, some untapped potential in Giddey. We drafted a 19-year-old at number 11 with Matas Buzelis. We still got Kobe and Io under some team-friendly deals for 2 more years. We got Julian Phillips. We got Dalen Terry. We just brought back Patrick Williams on a max 5-year deal for $90 million. But, Zach's still here. I mean, what do you make of it, Will? Because I'm genuinely concerned at this point. We know that Zach's been nothing but professional. We kind of talked about his agent, Rich Paul's response from last week, talking to the media to say, hey, people are slandering my client in ways that are total BS. Is this a divorce that is just not signed yet? And if it remains where it is now, which is it should be a divorce, but it's not signed yet, is that how big of a problem could that present for the Bulls coaching staff front office evaluating this younger core of pieces and seeing where they need to go next if Zach LaVine is just kind of, a stick in the middle of the road?
Yeah, I mean, Zach Lowe was just talking about this on his podcast. Like, what are the Bulls doing with Zach LaVine still on their roster? And it's like, they are trying to get rid of him. They can't. They can't give him away. They probably can't even pay to do it because, like, the price that it would cost would be so great. And you have to blame the Bulls for putting themselves in that situation. True. But part of it also is just like this, as I've said before, this like perfect storm of new CBA rules, the injuries, the fact that the Bulls played better without him. It's like all these things kind of coming together and making him appear way worse than I think he actually is. So That's kind of the calculus that the Bulls have to crunch at this point, is like, is it worth it to move off of Zach, to attach picks in order to move off of Zach? And like, if so, how many? Because right now, like, it is super awkward and weird that he's still on the roster. Clearly, both sides want to move past this relationship, but like, they just can't find anyone to do it. And so, you know, I think there's a world where they let Zach play a handful of games. You know, James Harden played like, I don't know how many games he played for the 76ers last year, but he played like the start of the season and they got traded in November. Maybe he didn't even play with the, actually he didn't even play with the 76ers, but he was on the roster to start the year and then they moved him. So maybe you do something like that. But I think like if the Bulls can get LaVine back on the court, it will at least remove the injury and the playing worse without him elements. He is overpaid relative to the production that he gives you. That's probably okay. It makes it a harder pill to swallow in this new CBA world. But to me, like, I just would be so hesitant to offload picks in order to move him, because it's like, to what end? Why are you clearing out this space? And so I think that the equation is like less about, you know, how much is it worth to get rid of him? It's more like, is he going to disrupt the development and growth of the younger players if you are prioritizing making him look good with the ball in his hands? So I think that's a question. And the other one is, how much better is he going to make you? Because the Bulls have to be bad next year. We've talked about this a bunch too. If the cost of, you know, a first round pick is enough to move him, is that enough to where like it outweighs the value of potentially losing your pick next year? Is the price of keeping your pick worth trading away a future pick? Because I think that, you know, Zach could be the difference between this team finishing as the 8th worst team or the 11th worst team. And if the price of making sure they're in the bottom 8 is that Portland pick or that Portland pick plus 4 second rounders, like you have to do that mental math. I'm not sure what the answer is, but like those are the questions they should be asking themselves.
Yeah, you're right. Everything should kind of be on the table for them right now, what they're deciding. I mean, it's a tough situation for sure. Both these parties want to move on from each other. I always am under the firm belief that it only takes one GM, one desperate GM. And you mentioned even the start of the season. Let's say one of those teams gets off to a slow start.
Or somebody gets hurt. Somebody
gets hurt even before the season starts. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, I don't feel like they need to be in a rush yet. Right now, you just have to, you know, let it play out, see how it goes, see how teams are really feeling about what they kind of have and who is desperate to kind of make a move. There are teams that might want to just make a move. Los Angeles Lakers, I'm looking right at you. You know that they want to do something. They want to bring in a name. The Lakers, they're just bringing in, you know what I'm saying, Ronald Johnson. They want to bring in an actual name.
And they basically did nothing in free agency.
Exactly. And that's very un-Laker-like, to the point my brother-in-law is a Lakers fan, is texting me like, dude, have you heard anything? Can you please tell me something that the Lakers have done? I'm freaking out over here.
Oh, yeah, so they gave Bronny a guaranteed contract.
Exactly.
And, like, if you're the Lakers or one of these other teams, would you rather give up the entirety of your remaining draft assets, your 2027 and 2029, I think, picks? Or maybe it's 29 and 31, I'm not sure. Would you rather trade those for Brandon Ingram and then have to give him a $200 million contract that would take him through the next 5 years? Or would you rather trade basically nothing for LaVine and just have him for 3 years before you could open up that flexibility again? Like, to me, I don't understand why teams aren't buying low on Zach, because the second he gets back on the court, his value is going to go at least up to neutral, if not positive again. And so just from like a, you know, like macroeconomic standpoint, it's like, just like, buy low, sell high.
Present and future contract situation of players who are sort of like in that fringe all-star category. Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram are two names remaining that everyone around the league knows team wants to move them, and or they and the team want them to be moved.
Correct.
So if those are your options at this point, and you are a team still trying to improve your roster in these middle and late stages of the offseason, then call the Bulls. Call the Bulls and say, what can we do? Can we make something work?
Yeah.
Because I know that there is this other, line of thinking that I've heard from plenty of Bulls fans. I've even proposed it myself at times, which is, well, if there's nothing available for Zach, there's literally no market unless the Bulls are attaching first-round draft capital to get off of him, then keep him, rebuild some of his trade value, and then call a desperate team at the deadline or before the deadline, like you said, Dave. But the other side of that coin is how much is him being here going to impact accidental winning, like you said, Will, and the overall vibes in the locker room of a team that, as you said in your column, Will, young, bad, but fun. Yeah. Because Zach LaVine does not fit into young, bad, but fun. Zach LaVine still being here would fit into young, bad, and tense and awkward and friction in the locker room.
Which means losing.
And, the thing is also these teams go into training camp with a strategy in mind, a game plan of how they want to make their identity. And when you go into an offseason or into a training camp when Zach LaVine is still there, you have to consider him when you're building out what kind of basketball team you want to be.
Sure.
And I think that could be counterintuitive or counterproductive for the Bulls when they're trying to then build around Kobe White and Giddey. And where does Zach fit into that? And I think this idea that Zach, I don't think it's going to be problematic to ask Zach to just fit in. Okay. Because I think he knows at this point that he's got to play ball in order to get moved. Mm-hmm. But does that help him look good if he's just standing in the corner and catching and shooting threes and he doesn't have the ball in his hands? I don't think, to me, yes, he needs to prove that he can do that, but he also needs to prove that he's worth that contract.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be worth $43 million a year if all you're doing is standing in the corner. And so I think it just adds a lot of different distractions. Ultimately, to me, I would not be giving up more than second-round picks or the Portland pick that I think will probably end up being a second in order to get off Zach. And honestly, I wouldn't even want to do any of that because I just think in 3-6 months' time, he could be getting you a first-round pick because I think his value will improve that much. At the very, very least, he's got 2.5 years left on his contract instead of 3. And I think that matters here. So I just wouldn't be doing that, but I understand that it does. It is weird and awkward, and you want to move on, but you can't. But to me, I don't think it's worth. I don't think giving up a first-round pick is worth an uncomfortable 6 months.
No, I completely agree with you. I think we're all in agreement. We're not giving up first-round capital. Well, I'll happily bite that bullet and just deal with him being here. That's fine. But that desperation from these other teams, that's when that stuff starts kicking up. When the season goes on and as it's going, somebody's going to fall short of expectations some kind of way. That's just how it happens in the NBA. And I'm telling you, I just refuse to give up on the Lakers because they just are that kind of team. They don't concern themselves with future picks. They don't concern themselves with the future. That's never been the Lakers. It's always been about now. Mm-hmm. How can I win today? You've got LeBron James. You can't be concerned about this future. It's about right now, can I win? And you've made no moves to show that you could even be competing with these guys right now. You basically running back the same team that barely made the play-in.
Yeah, made it out and then lost to the Lakers or lost to the Nuggets in round 1 and 5.
They cannot do that again. All right, they have to add something and add a name. And I know Laker Nation wants that to happen,
especially with the threat hanging over their heads of okay, yeah, LeBron got himself a new deal, but he's got an option on that.
Yeah,
and a couple of people have said, that are certainly maybe even if they aren't even in LeBron's inner circle, they have lines to LeBron's inner circle saying this could be the last year.
Yeah,
this could be the last year, or certainly could be even perhaps more likely the second to last year. You're about to lose this window of LeBron, who is old but still putting up numbers.
It's gonna slam shut.
Still could be the best piece on a championship-bound team, a finals-bound team. Are you really going to sit around and do nothing to improve the roster that's been around him for a couple of years and come up short?
And here's the thing about the Lakers trade. The deal is basically LaVine for D'Angelo Russell, Hachimura, and Gabe Vincent. That doesn't help the Bulls at all.
No.
That just gets you 3 more contracts that you don't really want to have either. Russell's expiring this year. He's just picked up his $18.5 million player option. Hachimura has 2 years left, $17 million this year. And Gabe Vincent has 2 years left at $11 million. So those are maybe a little bit more movable, and maybe the Bulls could end up flipping those guys at the deadline. They wouldn't. You're not allowed to aggregate players in a trade after you just receive them. So in order to put them together in a different trade, you would need to wait 2 months. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. To me, I'm just not sure if that's such a great option either, because now you've got all these other players that you don't really want to be part of your future plans that you have to factor in. And yes, they could move those too, but it's just like it's more legwork that you have to deal with. So the idea of like giving up picks in order to get that return is just like, is this really worth it? And I think the Bulls do. I heard somebody say this. I don't know like how sourced it is, but like I think the Bulls do want to try to put Zach in a situation that he wants, but at the same time they have to like do what's best for them. And I think they are in a position now where they know there just aren't a lot of options out there. And so trading picks to get off of him sets you back. And you can't really do that when you're entering a rebuild. But I also don't know how much just moving him for like D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura helps you either.
As far as what your team, you're saying?
As far as like your team now, what you're building.
I understand how it helps getting Zach off of the squad.
Yeah,
like, that helps.
Correct. But then you've got, you cut off one head and you got two more grown in. Like you have different problems you have to deal with.
I'll take those problems, though.
Yeah,
honestly.
And that's fair.
I would take those.
That's fair. It's just that it's also a consideration.
Correct. I got you.
So we can't get rid of Zach, but we want the Bulls to lose for Cooper Flag, correct? That's the issue?
Well,
and be fun.
That's a very generalized, overarching we. I don't know who we are referring to.
We, the four of us.
Some of us on this program think that is in the Bulls' best interest. Not every Bulls fan wants that.
Every Bulls fan wants that. So, like, I think that then the solution is if we can't get rid of Zach, then we have Ramina take Zach to an island for the next year.
Go on.
And just
are we talking
him
kidnapping?
There. Yeah. A Zach napping.
A Zach nap.
A Zach nap.
For the record, I've never heard Ramina make such a threat. This is Braggs' idea. This is Braggs' brain baby right now.
This is a good idea.
Our friend Ramina would not break the law in such an egregious way.
That ibuprofen kicking in.
Don't traumatize Zach's children by kidnapping him for a year. That would be bad.
I did see a snarky quote tweet of Ramina's yesterday or this morning talking about how Zach actually may have been that Forbes Evan Sider retweet that we were referencing earlier. He's saying, when Zach's still around and starts balling out again, Bulls fans going to change their tune. Meanwhile, Robert in the comments said, get Zach a Coors Light, some Shady Rays. That'll get his spirits up. Help him ball out. Tell Grandpa Jerry he can trade him. Terms apply. Shout out, Rob. So the other thing that I did want to make note of, because I'm so curious how Zach LaVine feels right now. Hearing all this stuff. Clearly, his agent, Rich Paul, went out there last week and spoke for him, saying this Zach LaVine slander has gone too far. My client's been nothing but professional. He can still ball out. Zach LaVine is not a very active Twitter user. I don't know if you've noticed that, but he is, he will occasionally like post pictures of either his workouts or his family on Instagram. He is almost never on Twitter. He has tweeted 4 times going back to April 17th. April 17th, he had a tweet that said, Kobe, special performance, adding Kobe White with a couple of pound fist emojis. He retweeted Will Conroy, a video of him working out in early June. He had the suck-up tweet about Bronny getting drafted on June 27th.
You heard him, Will.
And then Tuesday, today at 1:42 a.m. Central Time,
correct.
Zach LaVine tweeted, stay present, lock emoji in.
Clank, clank.
I'm not a big tea leaf reading kind of guy.
Okay.
But I saw that tweet of Zach's when I logged on to Twitter this morning, and I was like, what's this mean? What does this mean? Zach is never on Twitter, and at 1:42 a.m., Zach LaVine tweets, stay present, lock in.
He's focused.
What's going on?
He's focused.
I want to know.
He knows he's going to L.A. That's what
I think the opposite. I think he's like, all right.
He's like,
stay
I gotta
present.
lock in. I
know
stay
I
in.
can't think about whatever team I'm getting traded to. Just gotta stay present. This is what it is.
I gotta focus on what's happening in front of me. Okay, that's fair.
But I think he's in LA right now because that's where he lives in the offseason. And that was 11:42 p.m. his time, so it's a little bit less weird than a 2 a.m.
I did have that thought too.
That's
I was
a
like,
very good point.
I was like, if he's West Coast, then this is a little less weird than if it was tweeted at 1:45 in the morning.
That is very, very fair.
At the same time, I also tweet at 1:45 in the morning, plenty, especially if we're in season. We finish a post-game show at 12:30. But I am very curious about Zach's mentality right now.
Yeah,
because if he is maybe slowly starting to face the reality that this trade is not going to happen between now and the start and training camp, how does he approach it?
I honestly don't even think that he should be worried about it yet. I don't think it should be a concern. Probably when you get a week out for training camp or meet or whatever, when you start having team activities come up on your calendar, then you can start those worries. But as of right now, when it's just summer league going on, young guys doing stuff, everybody kind of running around, things are still in limbo and still happening. We've been at summer league when those trades have gone down. Like things, shout out. Like those things can still happen. Like stuff is still in the air and still moving. You still got Clutch Sports and Rich Paul doing stuff. So I wouldn't even be concerned about it. I wouldn't even be worried about it. I keep doing whatever you're doing in the offseason. When team activities start popping up on the calendar and it's a week out, then you can start that worry then, man. But right now, it's nothing you can really do.
Talk about things being in the air and things still being moving. A couple of years ago in Las Vegas, I was there. There was an earthquake.
Yeah.
The Jumbotron in Thomas and Mack was shaking.
Yes.
And then a couple hours later, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard get traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. So this is another time
Steve
when
Ballmer's got some weird back channels, y'all.
All of the NBA executives are in Las Vegas at the same time.
Yeah.
They're sitting together watching these games. They're in the little team-only section watching at the gym. They're chit-chatting in each other's ears.
That's right.
And they're, trying to swing some deals. And
earn your money.
Like we saw in some of these like NFL All Access things, like guys talking to each other about who they wanted to trade for, like come talk to me if this guy's available kind of thing.
Wink, wink.
That kind of stuff happens at Summer League. So I think things could still happen. Things could still materialize. Not a lot of these rosters feel set to me. There's still a couple of really good free agents available. Gary Trent Jr. is out there. Tyus Jones is out there. Markelle Fultz is out there. I think there's still going to be some action. These guys may not get the money they want, but like roster things are still going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think trades are going to be a part of that too. So I'm not saying it's going to happen this week, but I'm also not saying that it won't happen by the start of the season.
Right. Correct.
Enco in the comments asking, will Zach be at Summer League? Maybe
he's shown up the last few years.
I was going to say, will he
like watch part of a Bulls game?
Yeah.
I kind of doubt.
I was going to say I would doubt it. I'd be surprised if I see Zach there, especially in a manner of like going and like watching Buzelis and Julian Phillips.
I would say if he's there, he's with Rich Paul. That's the only way he'll be there.
Okay, but if he is there, this is the perfect Ramina opportunity for an Ocean's 11 heist of Zach LaVine. You get George Clooney, you get Brad Pitt, those twins that are always arguing.
Those aren't twins.
They aren't twins?
No. Far
you
from
get the
it.
brothers that are always arguing. Whoever the
They're
fuck.
not brothers either.
Okay.
You're talking about the other Affleck brother and
Casey.
Casey Affleck and Scott Kahn.
Yeah,
they're not
Hawaii
twins.
5-0.
They're not twins. They're not twins.
Gone in 60 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
those are not twins.
Like
you use the group. You get Ramina. You steal Zach LaVine.
And how does this lead to the Bulls getting a better trade package for Zach LaVine?
Great question.
One step at a time.
Ocean's 11 would have figured that out.
So step one is kidnap Zach LaVine, and step two is figure out how to work that into a Zach LaVine trade that benefits the Bulls.
He either is stuck on an island with Ramina
like
for the
Pain
next
and Gain.
year, or he agrees to our demands.
Seen the movie Pain and Gain?
I think that the escalator rattled a few things other than his ACLs.
Oh, Zach Edey at 9. You happy with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
He looked good.
All right.
Did you see his
Happy for
Rookie
him.
of the Year odds changed after that first Grizzlies
I
game?
did. I did see
From
it,
like
man.
plus 1,200 to plus 600?
Huh? Yeah. He looks skinnier. He doesn't look as bulky anymore. He looks
He's a big dude.
Skinnier,
I
man.
feel
He's
like
a big
him
dude.
going to the Grizzlies made me exponentially higher on Zach Edey than
He's in the right place.
It's a great
It's
fit.
such a good
It's
fit.
a
I think it's a
great
good
fit.
fit.
It's a really good
perfect
fit for him.
setting for him.
Real quick, we're almost out of time. Before we get out of here, our guy Fish, shout out, asking, when's the last time Zach and the Bulls have actually spoken? Do you know
That's a good question.
any intel about that, Will? Do you know? I mean, like, exit interviews probably
What do you
were a
mean,
thing,
Zach?
but
Like Zach and the Bulls.
Zach
Like
and
Arturas
his
and Zach
people
LaVine sitting
communicating with the Bulls,
Oh.
represent,
Yeah,
front office about facilitating some kind of trade.
I don't know. I'm sure they have been in communication. Like the Bulls signed a clutch client, Jalen Smith, this year. So
Hey-o.
like clearly there is some communication. But I mean, Rich Paul said it to Casey Johnson, like they've got work to do. And so I think everybody kind of knows what's what.
Right.
And
he did say, like, the other half of that was, and we're going to let them do their work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Paul is going to
like,
be working at this summer league. I'm telling you.
Yeah. He's going to have to, because like,
yes,
as we talked about before, like, I do believe that he is part of the reason that they're in this situation, the way that they handled things. So I'm not saying any of these parties was perfect, but like they all kind of have to facilitate this thing, because there just aren't like a lot of easy options right now. I think had the Bulls gotten something done when teams still had cap space, or, you know, earlier on in the offseason when if things had broken a different way, maybe Paul George stays with the Clippers and now they've got an opening and DeMar goes to the 76ers instead of Paul George, and then the Kings are open for business and they want Zach. So things just did not break right. Again, that's the fault of the Bulls for being in this situation in the first place, but there's just not a lot of easy solutions right now. And so I think it may take some like outside inertia to like push a team into, okay, yeah, actually let's go for it with Zach. So who knows if that's an injury, if that's an illness, if that's what, but I'm not saying, I just don't think it's like guaranteed that he's going to be with the Bulls. I think that's probably the most likely scenario at this point. But I also think that there is a lot of desire from both parties. Now, who knows if that matters, because at the end of the day, it's going to have to take a third team to be the one that wants it to happen for it to happen. But I do feel like there's motivation from both sides to get something done.
Inertia and macroeconomics is what the GOAT is spewing today. Shout out to that young man.
Brainiac.
Shout out.
Concerned about his brains.
Yes, it is.
This is the difference between Will and Braggs. Shout out to our guy Dreads, who's just saying Zach to Portland calling it, Zach to Rockets calling it. I don't know if you can call it if you just throw every team out there.
All right.
I told you. 27 more teams to go, Dreads. Just rattle them all out.
Zach to Ramina calling it.
Okay, there's Braggs' prediction.
Right,
I'm
Braggs.
slightly worried.
Good luck.
We are just about out of time. Shout out and thank you again to Braeden Proctor for joining us. Great insight from Buzelis' high school coach, Sunrise Christian Academy, Buzelis' senior year. Loved hearing his thoughts on Buzelis.
We're going to see Matas play in.
We are. We're going to go see Matas play out in Vegas. We're flying out Friday morning. We do have one show for y'all tomorrow before we do that. In the meantime, read Goat's great column that dropped earlier today, allchgo.com. Need to be a diehard to read it about things he would have done if he were the Bulls front office, other than the ones that they did that Bulls fans aren't loving right now. You can follow him, Will_Golly, Big Dave Bow, BAWL Sports, I'm Bulls_Peck. Shout out and thanks to our injured but still here and still rocking producer, the one and only Greg Braggs, giving himself a hand of applause. Round of applause. We are CHGO_Bulls, back tomorrow, same time, same place, 4 p.m. Central, right here, CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Hit the like on your way out. Make sure you subscribe. Have a great Wednesday night. See you, Red. Be good.
Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.